I am in a very interesting situation. Find myself between a rock and a hard place. We had an excellent speaker. Elder Cooper is a great preacher, and I'm not. And then I have a long list of very prominent speakers that will be the plenary speakers coming after me. And they all may be saying, well, Mario is going to speak first, and what will happen after that? Well, I have good news for you all. Since I'm speaking, the first one to speak, maybe I'll be setting very low standards for you so you all can feel good. Anyways, when I was asked to speak, the first time Dr. Handyside asked me to talk, I have to say that I felt intimidated. Coming and speaking in Europe, it's like talking to my father. You know why? Well, first of all, my father was a very smart and very educated person. And it was very difficult to talk to him because he knew a lot. And coming to Europe is like speaking to my dad, because you see, whatever you say about us and from America, we all came from here. My great-great-great-grandfather, Julio, and his wife, Juana Ceballos, were Spanish. And I know that there are some Spaniards here. And that's part of my heritage. Some of you may be listening, trying to understand my accent. I think it's kind of cute. That's what my wife tells me. And it's a Spanish accent. So it is like coming and talking to my dad. Somewhat intimidating. But it's a pleasure for me to be here. But on top of that, then Dr. Landless tells me that he asked me if I could speak instead of Dr. Kathleen Kuntrev. As you know, she lost her son a few weeks ago, and this week she is back to Indonesia to take his remains back to their homeland. So it was a little more pressure that I was under, but it's a pleasure for me to be here and to talk to you. I was asked to speak about the worldviews on disease and healings. I will be sharing with you some of the work that she did. She did some research in preparation for this. I will also be sharing with you some of the classes, some of the materials I used for my classes. And years ago, I was teaching medical residents, physician residents, and nursing students at Kettering College of Medical Arts and also at Florida Hospital. And we were talking about the different beliefs and practices. Let me show you, we all are very much interconnected. And trying to see if this will work. Okay, we are very much interconnected. We travel a lot. No matter where you are, you'll find people from all over the world. Also, our disease travels with us. And I'd like to show you a short video that shows, yes, how one disease travels, but also shows how interconnected we are. we are different. We may look different. We may talk different, but we all belong to one race. We all belong to the human race. One of the oldest and largest countries in the world and religions of the world comes from India. And let's see if our next video will work
plans
better.
to provide online knowledge of traditional medicine. Developed since 2001 by over 200 researchers, the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library is a collection of some 200,000 medicines from about 150 ancient Indian books. The goal of the project is to preserve and protect traditional wisdom. It will also serve as a reference for patent examiners worldwide to review new applications. A portion of this valuable resource will be made publicly available to encourage the development of therapies for diseases which are more common among the disadvantaged sector of society. Kudos, the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, for your efforts in safeguarding and sharing time-honored knowledge. May your noble efforts benefit many people for years to come.
In India, we find in several excavations in different sites, it suggests that medical interventions such as dentistry and trepanations were practiced about 7,000 years before our common era. The Vedic hymns are the earliest source of information on healing practices in the Indian subcontinent. The Buddha was seen as a healing guru. The healing practices were part of the monastic traditions. And not only in the Hindu tradition, but also in the Christian traditions and many other traditions, we find that in the beginning, the first people that took care of the sick were the priests, were the ministers, were the pastors, were the nuns. So they were the first one to take care of all of that. Also, we can see that the healing was codified in Sanskrit during the early centuries of the Common Era in the treaties such as the Karaka, the Shamita, pre-colonial Indian period. Early Portuguese and Dutch settlers, they depended especially on the local medicine for their cure. Not only that, today there are attempts by the biomedical and the researchers to correlate the materia medica with the different modern biomedical concepts. We can also see that in India we find that the beliefs that we find there, they have beliefs that are faith and tradition. We also see that the health crisis, the family may not want physical care for their patients. And in health crisis, we see that the families want to refuse bathe after meal, for example. Blood transfusion is okay. I know that there are several healthcare workers here today. So one of the things that you want to avoid with Hindus is to avoid eye contact. Families like to participate in the care of the patient. Direct interview to husband or father is very important because of the way the families are made. Medicine in China also is very interesting, and no matter where you are, you will find people that come from China. All you have to do here is step out of this hotel into the street, and you will see across the street a Chinese restaurant. So you will have people that come from China here. And what do they believe? Again, we have another video.
The concept of Shen is a fundamental part of traditional Chinese medicine. Shen is considered to be one of the three treasures that forms life. Jing, the essence, Qi, the life force, and Shen, which is usually translated as the spirit. Shen embodies consciousness, mind, or thought. It is Shen that raises the consciousness of human beings above that of other living creatures. The earliest discourse on Shen is in the ancient Chinese medical text Huangdi Neijing, or the Yellow Emperor's Book of Internal Classic, in a section called The Root of Spirit. According to historical texts, the Yellow Emperor asked a question, which was answered by the chief physician, Qi Bo, beginning with these words: Heaven abides so that we have virtue. Earth abides so that we have Qi. When virtue flows and Qi is blended, there is life. Senior lecturer and dean of the European School of Acupuncture, Elizabeth Rocha de la Vallée, says the concept of Shen is expressed in the relationship of the traditional Chinese medicine or TCM practitioner with the patient.
So, but what is show is that when you are a practitioner, what is important is the relationships with the patient. Is a lot of things, of course. You are supposed to know your job, to know the techniques, to know how to make the diagnosis and so on. Okay, that is the very basis. So, but on the other hand, what is also important...
So this can give you a little acquaintance to what Chinese medication is like. And we just need to know this for informational purposes. I'm not in any way condoning or saying these are practices that we should follow or do. But we will find people from all these traditions coming and being our patients. And one of the things we need to remember about the Chinese tradition, that is very old. Some of the oldest medical books were written in China 4,000 years ago. It describes the uses of acupuncture. There are some clinical studies that talk about acupuncture and what acupuncture can do for you. Chinese medicine is based on the view that health is a balance in the body of two forces called the yin and the yang. So some of their beliefs, they believe in a holistic medicine. They believe in what is called coping, acupuncture, and herbs. Wellness is promoted. They believe in the harmony of the body. Some of their also practices in health crisis, they believe that sickness needs to be rubbed out with coin rubbing. Families may want to protect patient from knowing if the prognosis is poor. Does that sound familiar to you? We are, as I showed in the first video, we are very much interconnected. I remember when my grandmother was 84 years old. She was diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer, 84 years old, and no one told her she had cancer. They just told Grandma, you need some medication. They gave her some medication. Her hair began to fall off. They never told her what kind of medication she was given. You know how old she was when she died? 104. She never knew she had cancer. That was some of the customs and other traditions. She was not Chinese. She was descendants of Spaniards. But that is in that culture. So we need to, even though we may not agree, we should respect their traditions. So that is why it's so important as a healthcare worker to check with the patient to clarify responses to. Chinese tend to say yes when you ask them anything and you tell them anything, they said yes. So ask them, clarify. They may not want to upset people. Many Chinese also are Buddhist. And Buddhists, they believe in there is no God. But the Buddha is very well respected. Blood transfusion is okay in their families. They may believe peace from Buddha, wisdom is important for their healing and their recovery. Again, check with the patient with specific wishes. They may not want treatment and holidays. Let's move on because time is really going fast. And let's look at medicine and medical care in Africa. In African traditions, health is delivered in some places by the healers. In Zulu, they are called Nyanga. In other places, they may refer to them as Songama. Ceremonies are led by spiritual leaders called Nyanga. Medical knowledge is passed through generations and is made up of both specific and subject disciplines. Healers access the invisible realm, they call it, to gain insight in the matter. That is why with traditional African medicine, sometimes it's called witchcraft. Now, traditional African spiritual curative medicine also has some botanic properties, but that's not all they have in Africa. When you go to Africa, you'll find a very advanced societies. We in the church, we even have a university, in Babcock University, and that university now also has a school of medicine that is based on what we call evidence-based medicine. So we find Africa also very interesting traditions, and those traditions also will affect some of those that African descents that come here. The family is very valued. The extended family is very important. We look for family ways to support the different family ties. And the health care environment is also important. In their case, eye contact is something that is important. Make sure you see the people. Use direct eye contact. Clarify terminology. Include all members of the network. Remind patient that it is okay to receive pain medication. Very similar to other customs and other practices. Moving on to where I come from, in the Americas. There are different views in America also. Just to show you one. This is what is called the Blackfoot medicine song. Now, I have to tell you, all America is not North America. America includes the North and the South. And North, Central, and South American traditions is very, very diverse. It comes from different tribes. Many believe that it fits in the way of life, the healing aspects of it. Some use a combination of herbs, and it's called potluck, ceremonies, smoking, tobacco, etc., etc. There are more than 1,200 healing herbs in South America. And they were used by the Mayas, the Aztecs, the Incas, and the curanderos. As we look at Americans, I can speak for both North Americans and South American. We promote wellness. We care for the people that are sick. When a baby is very skinny, we are concerned that the baby is too skinny. And we look at making sure that he puts some weight. He's chubby. We talk about the importance again of the extended family. Very similar to the traditions that we see coming out of Africa. Space is very important. Touching is very important. For those of you that know, some of us South Americans, we like to give an embrace. We always salute with an embrace. That is very important. The decision maker in the family may be the older sibling, if it's the parents that are sick. Allow time for direct discussion. When possible, assign a female healthcare worker to a female patient. That is also very important with people. And as I can see, as you look at people from all over the world, you will also see people from the Americas coming to Europe. And that's part of the treatment that you you should offer. There are many different nuances that we have with different people. For example, I remember when my wife was pregnant for the first time and only time. She was told by her parents and my parents, be careful with what is called the sereno. El sereno. What is the sereno? Well, nobody really knows what it is. I guess it's some kind of disease that only affects Hispanic children, pregnant women, and elderly. And only a Hispanic doctor can treat. My grandfather used to say, be careful when you come from outside and it's hot, do not open the refrigerator. And also, as we were traveling, I remember many times my wife was reading. My grandfather traveled with me all through Europe. One time we came and we traveled all through Europe, and my wife was reading, and he said, do not read when the car is moving, because your eyes will turn inside. Well, I tried that and see if that happened, and never did happen. But there are different people, as you can see, and they have different traditions. And many times those traditions connect with each other. When my mother-in-law came to the United States, she went up to the United States from Puerto Rico, where she was born. She was a new bride. And her mother said, remember, when you have your first baby, when you give birth to your first baby, remember one thing: do not bathe. You have to wait at least 7 days. Well, she didn't speak English. She came to the United States. She got married when she got out of the plane that same day. And a couple of days after that, most likely, she got pregnant. And 9 months later, the first child was born. And after the child was born, a couple of days later, her mother contacted her. What happened? How did it go? You haven't taken a bath yet, have you? And she said, no, of course I did. That's the first thing I wanted to do when I gave birth. But customs may change as places go from one, as time goes from one to another. So all those things are very important as we look at the people and the different traditions. How much interconnectedness they have. How much they share with each other. That is very, very important. And then we come to today and where we are. We come from a very important tradition as Seventh-day Adventist. Ellen White, in her book Testimonies, Volume 4, page 225, says, the Savior of the world devoted more time and labor to healing the afflicted of their maladies than to preaching. When the Master shall come, he will commend those who have visited the sick and relieved the necessities of the afflicted. So my question to you this morning is, how do we deal with all these different traditions that come from different countries? Well, let me suggest a couple of things. First of all, we need to acknowledge who they are. Acknowledge where they come from. Acknowledge and respect what they believe. Second, we need to look for ways and opportunities that we can share the precious truth that we have received. Another thing to keep in mind is that those of you that are in direct patient care, physicians, nurses especially, those of you have an excellent and a beautiful opportunity. It's not that I do not value someone that is a mechanic. Yes, a mechanic is a very important person. He fixed my car. He fixed something that we humans have created. But those of you that are in the healing professions, you work with God's creation. The human body was created by God. You have an opportunity. Number one, and I will be expanding more of this in my last presentation. Number one, you have an opportunity to cure. That is, to fix the ailment, the illness that is affecting the body. But number two, you need to look at the whole person. When you look at the whole person, and the person in front of you is someone that come from or have Indian descent and that is a Hindu, you need to look at the whole person. What that person believes as a whole. And treat the whole person. You need to look for ways where you can share those precious truths that we have. You need to look for ways to share with them things that they may have never been exposed to. And I know that most of us, if not all of us, are living or are from this continent. You know, when people come from other places, from other countries and other continents, and especially from another cultures, and they come to a new culture, it is the best time for them to receive new information. Not only is the best time, they are more open to receive more information when they come from another place. And it is a time for you also to share. But beware. Beware. Because it is a time when they are also most vulnerable. And you don't want to take advantage of that vulnerability that they have. It is a time also for you to care. Remember that when the Master comes, he will look at you and he will give you a commendation. Because you, more than anybody, not only visited the sick, but you also relieved the necessities of the afflicted. Remember also that the Lord spent more time in healing, more time doing what you're doing, healing the afflictions of those that are sick. He spent more time doing that than what I spent doing preaching. So I pray that the good Lord be with you as you treat people of different faith. Thank you.